I call this my surprise F story. Uh, this happened like 25 years ago or whatever. Uh, no, not that long. 20 years ago, say. Anyways, she was a student in my algebra class, a good student. She had pretty much A's and B's in her classes. She struggled in math. There's kids like that who they do fine in everything except for math, and she was kind of one of those kids. And it was right before Christmas. It was a Chapter 5 test, and I'd given the test the day before, and I'm walking around. I have a warm up on the board, and I'm walking around showing the kids their test scores. And she sat in the sixth row, like three seats back, over by the window, and she was excited. I could just, she was just like, just noticeably way more excited than, you know, I mean, she just kind of got my attention, and I, I look as I'm, heading her way, and it's like she had a 56% on the test. I mean, um, anyways, I'm discreetly telling kids their scores, and I finally, get to her, and she like, she's all looks all excited, and I go 56, and she's like, oh. And she said, what? And I go, and I kind of show her and point, 56, and she just puts her head down, and she's just shocked, and just can't believe. She thought she did good. She goes, I got, she said, she goes, I thought I got an A, and I, it just shocked, it just rocked me. I mean, it's like, the times I've gotten F's on tests, I knew I did bad. Uh, and I just couldn't imagine getting an F and thinking you got an A. That just didn't make any sense to me. And so, over Christmas break, I just kept thinking about it. And it's like, there's something wrong. I got to do something a lot better and a lot different. I just can't have a student end up in this situation again because she was trying, and so I started breaking down the idea of learning well, and it's like okay, I broke it down into three parts. Conceptually, the words, you got to understand all the different words, um, like proportion. You got to know what a proportion is. I mean, it's when a fraction equals a fraction. Um, And anyways, but you got to be able to conceptually understand. You have to be able to talk about it. Can you explain to somebody else? Can you draw a picture of it? Can you define it? Can you teach it to somebody else? Can you show someone else? But just it's like okay, they have to do a lot. Just they have to understand the words and symbols first. Can they talk about the concept? Explain it. Second part, visually, mechanically, can they show the work correctly as they're doing the problem? Can they show the work correctly? Um, there's times where it's like, man, this is how, you got to be able to show your work clearly and correctly um, to be able to get the answer, so that, the third phase, so that you can double check, because there's basically two reasons you get something wrong. One, you don't know what you're doing, you don't understand it. And two, you understand how to do it, but oops, you make mistakes. And by the time you take the test, you've had lots of chances to make mistakes and learn from them. Um, and so I call it intentional precision. The third phase of learning well is you should be able to talk about it, explain it. You should know how to show your work right, and through all the warm-ups and practice and homework and quizzes, you should have made all your mistakes and learned from them and changed your behaviors to catch, eliminate, and avoid mistakes. Um, and so to give yourself a chance to actually get everything right. Um, when you get 100 or a really good grade on a test, it's not because you got lucky. Everybody makes mistakes, but you learn from them, and you know, something changed. So you just don't do the same thing and hope for different results. I mean, you have to change, um, how you do things so that you don't make the same mistake. Anyway, so we came back from Christmas, and I had made this, I made this poster, the 3 different sections, called it Learning Well poster. It's just like a self-evaluation poster, so you could self-evaluate if you're learning well. Okay, can you talk about it? A lot of share pair, turn to your neighbor and, tell them, ask them what this is, or teach them or explain, what this word means or what this symbol means. And then, now show your work correctly. And the biggest reason to show your work correctly is so that you can double check your work. You basically have 2 people in your audience. It's me, the teacher, and you, the writer, the student. We make mistakes. You want to be able to develop strategies to be able to catch, eliminate, and avoid mistakes. And then 3, that intentional precision. And so anyways, as we were from then on, so I explained this to my classes, to that girl, but to everybody in all my classes. And as we're going through that chapter 6 and all the other chapters that rest that year, I'm very intentional about making sure that they're doing that they're learning it well. Can you talk about this? Can you teach it? Can you explain it? Or can you show your work correctly? And then as you make mistakes, okay, what are you going to do differently? Do you need to touch it? Do you need to, what are you going to do differently to, so you don't make this mistake? Are you actually going to double check? Or are you just going to do it? Anyways, I'm dyslexic. I have to actually touch, as I'm writing, touch and write it to keep from, and just double check. Anyway, so, they get to the end of the chapter, and it's like, you should you should know that you know it, or you should know that you don't know it. And if you know it, you should you should have made plenty of mistakes and learned how to, avoid those mistakes. And, the girl was doing a great job, and she just got A's and B's on her tests after that. She was a good student, but she just struggled in math. There's, kids that fall in that category. And so it's super exciting to see, to teach kids, how to be able to self-evaluate, not just get to a test and be like, gee, I hope I'm ready. It's like, that's ridiculous. You should know if you're ready or not. I know how to do this. I know how to do this. I'm not very good with this. I know how to do that. I mean, you should know what you know, and you should know what you don't know. There's 5 levels of understanding. I don't know, and I don't even know I don't know. That's the worst. The person jumps in the deep end of a pool and can't swim, has to get rescued. I don't know, but I know I don't know. That person goes into the shallow end and, can get wet, but doesn't have to worry about drowning. I don't know. Oh, I can do it with help. I can do it with notes. I can get out there in the deep end as long as I got, a paddleboard or a life jacket on or something. I can get out there. And then I can do it. Level 4, I can do it. I can get out there and swim. In math, I can do the problems. And then, I forgot to say, level 1, I don't know, and I don't even know, what's 6 times 7, and they raise their hand and say 47. And it's like, that's wrong. I'm not sure why you raised your hand. What's 6 times 7? And the kid doesn't raise their hand. You call them. It's like, I don't know what 6 times 7 is, but 3 times 7 is 21, and 21 and 21 is 42. They don't know, but they figure it out because it's a problem. They don't know, so it's a problem, but they figure it out. What's 6 times 7? You look at my notes. Oh, well, that's times table. That's 42. And then what's 6 times 7? The kid says it's 42. They just know it. And then what's 6 times 7? They can be like the lifeguard at the pool. They can help others. The kid who knows it, and they can explain to other people. Like, oh, write 6 sevens or write 7 sixes and add circle. Maybe do 3 sevens. That's 21, and so with the other 3 sevens, another 21. You could show someone else how to figure stuff out. But anyways, um, so it's super important to make, as you're learning, to make sure that you are learning well. And but it was really cool to see that girl, and my students use that poster and become very successful at knowing that they learned well.